Hello there, welcome here to Prog Monster. My name is Murph. I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and all that kind of stuff. So we're here today to do the final episode of the mini-series that we've been running for the past 5 days. Well, this will be the 5th day, called In the Alternate Universe. So I've taken a parody on the Marvel Comics Watcher thing, in which he does the what if. So the Watcher is a chrome dome bald alien who sits up there and watches all realities from all universes and digs his story up, and he calls it What If. What if Captain America had fought beyond World War II? And we're doing the same thing here. We're taking 5 vocalists off 5 bands, and they're all going to be put in one of the other bands. I did that by rolling dice. The highest roll went into the band that we were doing at that time. And we're on the final episode here, in which I have created the last, probably the most difficult scenario of the 5, in which we have this band, Pink Floyd. Ironically, this was the album I chose because it's a split personality, right? No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, so Pink Floyd, and instead of having David Gilmour as their lead vocalist, they have Ian Gillan. Now, I know what you're saying, but David Gilmour wasn't the vocalist on the first album. That was Syd Barrett. Well, we're going to assume that Syd Barrett was also the vocalist on the first Pink Floyd album. But, he got sick, as we all know, and was replaced by David Gilmour. In steps Ian Anderson to take his place. Ian Anderson will take the place of David Gilmour. Now, this one is going to be one of the most difficult ones, because Ian Anderson, although he can play guitar, I don't think he's even in the same league, or close to the same league as David Gilmour. So they may have to make a change here, if this is going to work. First of all, you have 2 very powerful personalities in this band, in Roger Waters and Ian Anderson. Does that marriage sound like a good one? I don't know. Maybe initially it might be okay, because Roger Waters wasn't as dominant early on as he became later, because initially Syd Barrett did most of the stuff. But once Syd left the band and David Gilmour came on board, Roger Waters slowly began to take over the band and change it to in his direction. Now, Ian Anderson is not going to let that happen. You know that. He's going to be in charge from the get-go. So maybe Roger Waters never really develops that way. Maybe he never becomes the kind of guy he was. I doubt that. But let's see what happens in this scenario. So we have basically Ian Anderson on flute, guitar, some keyboards, I think, and vocals. Then you have Roger Waters on bass and vocals. You have Richard Wright on keyboards and vocals, and you have Nick Mason on the drums. Now, is Anderson going to allow, at this point in time, Roger Waters and Rick Wright to actually sing? My guess is he won't. My guess is he'll insist on being the singer. He'll insist on writing all the lyrics and all the music. And initially, that might be the case. Will this band sound like Pink Floyd? I doubt it, because it's going to be Ian Anderson's band, and he's going to dominate it early on. But we might have a different scenario about to happen here. So, we don't have a guitar player at this point in time, because as much as Ian Anderson can play guitar, I don't think he would be a lead guitar candidate here. Maybe Roger Waters can do both, but I don't think he really wants to do both. Otherwise, he would have taken over from Gilmour instead of bringing him in, right? So I think the move is going to be to bring a guitar player in here to join this band, because, as you remember, Syd Barrett was the guitar player for Pink Floyd. So I think Ian Anderson may go the route of finding another guitar player. Initially, that could be just about anybody, depending on the style of music they want to play. Maybe he'll bring in David Gilmour to play guitars. Maybe. Or maybe he is going to try to play it himself, decide that he's not up to it, and then bring in Martin Barre. That could happen. At any point, the first album is already gone at this point in time, Pop Art, the Gates of Dawn, but there's going to be a radical change to the sound of this group in the second album. I don't think you're going to get that Saucer Full of Secrets, which is absolutely beautiful, but you're not going to get that here. You're going to get something very different, I think. You may get some of that element in the music because the other guys have been playing that and want to continue to play that, or maybe they want to go in that direction. But at this point, they haven't gone in that direction on the first album, and they may not go in that psychedelic direction on the second album. Maybe Ian Anderson's Control swings them right away to that progressive sound that he's become known for. And this will have a lot more flute on it. Maybe they don't have as much of those noises and sounds that Pink Floyd is known for. Maybe they have more of the flute and keyboard sound that Ian Anderson wants. So maybe Richard Wright gets a lot more play here than he would have initially, and pushed to play a different sound. Or maybe Anderson wants to tone that down and go with a more piano sound. I don't know. So the first album with Ian Anderson at vocals is going to come out, and you're going to get something that's going to sound like a bit tullish, but it'll have a kind of slower feel to it, I think, and it'll be a little bit spacey as well. So the third album will come out, which at that point would have been More, which is more of a More was their third album, Pink Floyd's third album, but it was a soundtrack. Maybe they don't get asked to do those soundtracks, so the actual fourth album may be Amagama, right? I'm thinking, could be. So the next album, so because that's their next album up, will that sound like what it did? I doubt it. I think it's going to be a lot more Jethro Tull-like than it will be like Pink Floyd. So at this point, now you've had 3 albums, and they're starting to go in that Jethro Tull way. Anderson has got his now guitar player on board. I'm going to guess he'll pick Martin Barre. So now you have Martin Barre and Ian Anderson in here. I don't think this is going to sit well with Roger Waters, because he's not going to want to go in that direction. He's going to want to go and do the things that he wanted to do. He's going to start to assert himself here. And we're going to have conflicts here. Maybe they go another album. Now, in the case of Jethro Tull, that would have been their Aqualung album. But in the case of Pink Floyd, it's going to be Atom Heart Mother. I do not think Atom Heart Mother will ever exist in a band like this. I think now you're going to start getting that kind of really kind of progressive sound with a lot of kind of folky stuff going on, and this is not going to sit well with Roger Waters. And unless they use a lot of keyboards, it may not sit well with Richard Wright either. And Nick Mason, as good of a drummer as he is, I don't think he's up to that sound level. You know, because by this time, you've got some really good drummers in Jethro Tull. So I'm thinking Ian Anderson may push one or more of these guys out of the band. Or they may just have a split where Anderson and Barre go one way and Roger Waters goes the other way and tries to find himself another guitar player that suits where he wants to go. The band at this time, to me, it'll all depend on how the albums go. If these albums do well, maybe they tolerate it and go on together for a while. But if it's a flop and doesn't do well, I think the marriage will come apart fairly quickly. In this scenario, my guess is that the massive egos of Ian Anderson and Roger Waters will start to clash. And if it doesn't happen on this album, within a couple of more albums, it will become too hard to contain, and then you'll have a split. But I don't know if you'll have a split where you have the 3 original members of Pink Floyd going one way and the 2 members of Jethro Tull going the other way and doing their own things. Or maybe it just blows up completely and nobody goes and they all go different ways and do their own thing. I don't know how that would go. But definitely an interesting thing. I do not see this being a marriage that works very well, and probably wouldn't work out in the long run. So that's it. That's the last episode for The Watcher of the Sky. No, for In the Alternate Universe. It's been a fun concept. This is the first time I've done anything like this. I think if I was to do something like this again, I might try a little bit of a different quirky sense to it. How do you guys feel about it? Do you like it? Did you not like it? If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Do you think this is a plausible kind of scenario for Pink Floyd with an Ian Anderson at the vocal helm? Or do you think maybe Ian Anderson's so strong of a character that he able to dumb them down and make them fit into his will and follow the plan that he puts down? You let me know how you feel about it. Anyways, it was fun to do all this series. Would you like to see another one like this? Maybe some suggestions of bands that you might like to see be put in the next one. I purposely didn't pick the more well-known bands to me, like Rush or Yes or Genesis or Styx or any of them, because I wanted to force myself to think a little bit harder about these and get to know these bands a little better. So anyways, I hope that you've enjoyed this. Don't forget to hit the notification bell. If you haven't seen the other 4 episodes, go back and watch them. And we will see you next week with something new. Maybe a different series. I'm not sure yet. Ben and me are working now on possibly launching another series as well. So it'll depend on how that goes as to what I do next week. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Have yourself a good evening. Take care and goodbye.